What's happening? Okay, I'm going to try to get through this quick. I know the intro is long, so I apologize in advance, but welcome to another episode of the Scratch Track. Happy July. Hope you guys had a good 4th. Happy birthday, America. And there's the thunder. We have a very special guest today, but before I get into that, I want to remind you guys, please, if you could, tell your friends about us. Follow us on our social media, Instagram, Scratch Track Podcast, Facebook, Scratch Track Podcast, and to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then hit that little bell on the side. It'll get you notifications as to when we're dropping new content, new videos, and whatever. So we're doing the weekly format again. For those of you guys that haven't watched in a little bit, we're doing weekly formats now. And July is packed with some really cool episodes. I'm really excited to have our guest here today because we haven't really sat down and talked yet, as most of the people that are on the Scratch Track goes. So today I'd like to welcome the flute player from the renowned band Guava Train, Jody Synowiec. And I got it right.
You got it right.
Shit, yeah, let's go. All right, Cool. All right. So Jody and I have been talking about doing this for a little bit, and we're going to get into her background and the band that she plays with, Guava Train. Of those of you guys that watched the Justin Rice episode, that's the same group. It's not two separate groups with, coincidentally the same name. Jody is the flute player and sometimes lead vocalist, but I mean, what do you?
We kind of pass it off between me and Justin.
Okay. So before we get started, promote, plug anything you want. Just pull that a little bit closer to you there, so we can. Yeah, that's good. That's perfect right there. Yeah. Great. Lovely. All right. Give them your social media, your shows coming up. This is going to drop on the 8th. Happy post 4th.
So we actually have a bunch of fun shows coming up. Oh, I wish I had my phone to look at the exact dates. But you can go to Guava Train Official on Facebook and on Instagram, and we have all of our upcoming shows on there. We've been doing some duo stuff with me and Justin. We have some trio stuff going with me, Justin, and James, our drummer. And we have some 4-piece stuff coming up as well, adding our bass player Mike. So it's going to be really awesome. Guava Train Official. Please like us on Facebook and Instagram. Super appreciate it.
Yeah, it's big. A lot of the following comes from there, and a lot of the opportunities sometimes come from there. That's. I wish it wasn't that way sometimes, but it's a dirty business, and sometimes that the difference between you and a gig is maybe 50 or 100 followers. So
exactly, it's true.
It's much appreciated anytime you guys do that. Okay, so how long have you been with the band? Because I remember seeing Justin and Matt play in the very beginning, and then you were incorporated as, I think, the 3rd member. So you were the first one outside of Justin and Matt, right?
Exactly. Okay. So it's actually, from what I understand, they had been talking about it for a while and played together. Justin and Matt have known each other since childhood.
Yeah, forever.
So they've been playing for a long time together. And it just so turned out that I knew Justin was going to be playing some solo stuff, going to have some other people on, and I just randomly asked him, "Hey, can I sing with you? Can you play some stuff on the guitar and let me sing along?" And the night that I did that with them happened to be the very first night that they came out with the idea of Guava Train.
Oh, no way.
And said, so I... Very cool. Literally the first day I had already hopped aboard the train.
Climb aboard.
Yep.
Yeah, we're already on the, you were there for the inception of it, so that's really cool.
So it ended up just serendipitously worked out perfectly.
Yeah, and that's really great. And then
I couldn't be happier.
You guys are a 5-piece now with like a 6th unofficial member, kind of official.
Yep, Matt McGowan is on harmonica and vocals. Yeah, he's getting playing some uke in there, a little bit of ukulele.
Matt is an entertainer, man.
He really is. He really is. He's wonderful.
He's great too. It's like a lot of the guys. It's funny because I tell Justin this all the time. Like a lot of the guys that are real, not goofy, but just like kind of like you can tell they're like
super outgoing, super big personalities.
Yeah, like a lot of those guys, for the most part, that I've seen in this business aren't really that good, but he's really good and also really entertaining.
And really entertaining. I know. I actually pay attention to him to try and, learn learn a
Some
couple
moves.
tricks here and there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
But yeah, so it ended up when the pandemic started, I actually my mom got a double lung transplant at the beginning of 2020.
I remember hearing
So
that.
it was a lot. So once the pandemic started, I was living with my parents at the time to kind of help out. And I had to completely go underneath a rock because it just wasn't worth it. It just was too dangerous.
Yeah.
So I stopped playing for just about a year. And in that time period, we acquired both James on drums and Mike on the bass.
Yeah.
And so I got to come back to, it was just me, Matt,
Yeah.
and Justin, and I got to come back to a completely different sound, bigger, fuller, already in full swing, had already done some performances, already knew how each other played.
Yeah, that's so
awesome.
important to have, especially with all that time off and incorporating all these out of the ordinary instruments can sometimes be a big challenge for a larger band rather than it just being like a duo where it's maybe like a violin and a guitar or like a saxophone and a piano or something like that. It's a little bit different when you're incorporating a flute with like a full band.
It's not
and then,
very common.
Yeah, songs that you're not really
that don't have flute on them.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been finding that more and more enjoyable. A lot of people will come up to me, oh, have you heard this? Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Jethro Tull, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Time and time again. It's like, yes, I've heard him, but one of my favorite things to do really is a song that has no flute in it whatsoever. You hear it and you're like, how could you incorporate?
Yeah.
You can put flute in anything, we have come to find.
If you're good at what you do and you like if you have an imagination for that instrument and you take a specific approach to it to kind of put your own spin on it, you can make anything sound good as long as your heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
If you're trying to force some shit and like, oh, I guess I have to do this because I play this instrument, then that's where it gets a little weird.
Yeah.
No,
it's even to the point sometimes if you do hear moving flute parts in a song that we're covering, let's put that on guitar.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. I don't want to learn the exact same thing. I want to do something
different.
And
there's power in that too because you have to stand out, and a lot of bands do. When they go out and play live, and there's nothing wrong with this. They go out and play live, and they play it exactly like the record, like no mistakes. Which is there's a lot of strength in that, which is wild. I could never do that. I mean, I like to give myself a little bit of freedom, but like you said, unselfishly, when you hear something like that would be really cool with this, and then we can intertwine it with that. Like, that's what makes a good band, being open to other people doing a part that maybe should, like, as a knee-jerk reaction, go to you.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I think it would sound better this way.
Well, even to the point where every once in a while there's a couple, how some of the more lyrical songs, you'll have a really slow, beautiful electric guitar intro to it. And so we've done a couple of those where either me or Matt are playing it together at the same time, or we just have flute play it.
Yeah.
And so, you still get that same, like, especially the lower register of flute, that big, thick, round sound.
Yeah.
But it's just different.
One thing that Justin was telling me about that I thought was really great during the pandemic and when you guys all couldn't be together was the I guess maybe weekly or just every once in a while
bi-weekly
the Zoom band meetings, which is phenomenal. I mean,
it was wonderful.
You have to have that sort of chemistry and like on a schedule where you're like, hey, this is where we're at, this is what's going on. Like, it's such a corporate mindset from Justin,
of course,
and it can benefit you in stuff like this when you've never done anything else. But I thought that was so great.
It made me still very much feel like a part of the band, because that was the thing. I was gone for months and months and months and months, and then we got another, 2 other people into the band, and they're starting to perform slowly again and do stuff again, and they did a wonderful job at still really making me feel like a piece of the band, like a part of it, like an integral part.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I was not a very easy guy to work with back before I really gained an appreciation for what it is that we do. So hearing stuff like that is kind of like, oh man, I had all the technology at my fingertips to be able to, kind of maintain these relationships, and I chose not to. But hey, story for another day. We're here now, and
you live and you learn.
That's right.
No, I just got really fortunate with the people that I'm playing with, because
Absolutely.
not only are they incredibly talented. They all individually have so much experience under their belt, but they're just genuinely good human beings.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've said that to Justin so many times. I'm like, him, and along with, you and Matt and Mike and James and the other Matt, all of you guys are really easy people to root for.
Yeah.
It's so
just good guys.
Yeah, sometimes it's like you see a band, you're like, oh man, that's a really great opportunity, but like, man, he was never really nice to me.
Jerk.
Yeah.
He's just a jerk. He's
Yeah,
just kind
it's
of
like-
an arrogant butt.
Yeah,
But
it's
no,
like-
I don't think there's a single person in the band that anyone would ever have that to say about.
No.
They're
And
just
if you do,
kind.
you're incorrect.
Yeah, you're wrong. You caught him on a bad day.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's another thing about this business that a lot of people don't really understand. Like you could catch us at a really horrible time where like something's going on. Like
Yeah.
for no one really knows what was going on with your
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what the fuck is her problem? What's she pouting on stage?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
well,
like no, and there has been like a performance before where I just was not having a good day, and I tried my
Yeah.
best, and I still hoped I gave it my all, but it's like sometimes life still goes on, and you're
Yeah.
in front of people, and
yeah,
in the limelight, and
yeah. Well, that's hold on a second. I'm so sorry. I gotta mute that because in case it dings. So elephant in the room. You are my first female guest, and
It's an honor.
Yes, thank you for being here. It's not another straight white male.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Huh? Yeah, Jasmine says she refused to be the first. Although we have some unofficial tapings that may be released at some point if Jasmine allows it. But I kind of wanted to dive into that, and I didn't really write this down, but I wanted to kind of touch on sort of the, obviously there's a huge difference in just the world in general of, being a man and being a woman. Mm-hmm. And I want you to kind of just in your own words and your own experiences, what is it like in a musical standpoint where already off the stage you could be, objectified.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot like me, unless I'm in front of a microphone, nobody's fucking looking at me.
Yeah.
like you know what I mean?
No, it's a different, especially because when I, on my daily day-to-day basis, I don't look this cute. There's like, what's the point in putting this much effort into
Cameras
existing?
are on. Yeah.
So I do notice, especially for performances and stuff like that, I notice a difference. I notice more attention. But I think actually being the only female in the band and being surrounded by good dudes, it's kind of a buffer.
Yeah.
So I feel like I kind of get to avoid some
Yeah.
of maybe the creepier interactions, or
Yeah,
I'll get a little bit of it. I'll get a feel for it. But then I have, someone right next to me also interacting with this
Yeah.
individual,
Yeah.
and kind of
You have a good
eases it away.
The solo-
Nod my head and smile, and then kind of like, okay, thank you, bye.
Yeah, the solo stuff is terrifying. I mean, like I would really, because you never know. Because like with me, I'm 6'4", 270. No one's coming up to me and fucking with me.
Yeah.
Unless they, are just super drunk. But like, it always amazes me the confidence in dudes when they think that they can just like walk up to a chick and because a lot of the times guys need a direct like reason to come up and talk to you, right? And on stage, that's the reason. Like, hey, this chick was so
Give it
great.
to them.
Let's come
Yeah.
up. Let's go talk to them
Yeah.
now. Now I have a conversation starter.
Yeah.
Rather than like, hey, what are you drinking? Like
Yeah.
that. It's like and by the way, it's the fucking most disgusting behavior in the world. I hate dudes that do that shit.
Yeah.
Ugh, it's so bad. So I guess solo is a little bit different than playing in a band, and all those guys definitely.
Yeah,
like
they're
they look out
very
for
good
one another,
buffer.
and
Absolutely.
you guys too. But
Absolutely.
it just was always super interesting to me to because I'm privileged enough to have a build where like no one's gonna like physically intimidate me when I'm on stage. But I can imagine that it gets a little nerve wracking when
Yeah.
if I said no to a request and then somebody's gonna. They're gonna be like, okay, like that guy's an asshole. Like get back at the table, but like
Not going to try anything with you as you're packing up your car at the end.
Yeah,
of the day.
exactly. That's the other thing.
So that's it's actually I've considered kind of branching out and doing a little bit more solo work. I'd have a lot of work,
Yeah.
to put in to get some of my background
Yeah.
music together so I can sing and
Yeah.
flute over it. But
yeah, just bring Corey with you.
yeah, exactly. Because it's kind of a scary thought. Like even
Of course.
when it's just me and Justin with the duo, I still have that
Yeah.
buffer with Justin.
Yes.
He's still there. He's still a very
Yeah.
confident personality that's kind of
Yeah.
there and interacting and by my side.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's always great to have people around that have your back, no matter the situation. But it's just
Absolutely.
it's a very interesting kind of thing, because I know like with, do you ever get this too, which is I've talked to a couple of my female solo performer friends that they say this all the time about like, wow, you're really good for a girl. You ever get that?
I actually haven't,
dude.
And I'm wondering if maybe that has to do with playing flute, which is often perceived. Some of the best flute players I've ever met have been the only guy who is playing flute in a certain situation.
Yeah.
But maybe because it's already leans itself more towards like a girly instrument, I'm expected to play it a little bit better.
It's just so it's so stupid to me, like when people do shit like that to people that are clearly pouring their heart out and trying to be there and be present in the moment and to, react off of the crowd and to, you're bringing all your practice into this, all your repetition into this, and then you get bothered by some guy who's like, oh, well, this is pretty good, but...
For a girl.
For what you're doing.
For what your little lady brain is capable of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I haven't run into that with music too much yet.
Well, thank God, because those people are the fucking worst.
Yeah. Science, though, on the other hand.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, that's...
Definitely.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Okay, so here we go. I'm going to get this right. So not only is Jody a phenomenal musician and the flute player of Guava Train, which please go check them out, she is also let me refer to my notes, the senior biological scientist in the Department of Medical Engineering at the University of South Florida.
Yep.
Did I nail it?
You got it.
Shit, yes.
Got him.
2 for 2. All right, cool. So tell us a little bit about what it is that you do when you're not playing music, because a lot of this show is highlighting some of the day-to-day stuff. You're not always on stage, so tell us a little bit about that.
So my 9 to 5 is I'm a scientist, and so I have my background over a decade of higher education in biological sciences, medical sciences, molecular biology. So it's kind of interesting going from a state of mind where I'm daily working with pipettes and tiny little amounts of liquid and putting DNA in this thing and playing with cells in this way. And then I get to go home and I just bust out my flute and, take a shot of tequila and go.
Yeah. Is your, do you ever find that with it being such a highly intellectual career, do you ever find that sometimes it's hard to turn it off when you're trying to transition to being a scientist to being a flute player?
Yes and no, because I feel like I was always kind of good at music in general because it's the math of the arts world.
Correct.
And so I kind of always thrived at it. And I find a similarity between it, especially when I'm doing biology. I see music in my brain kind of as different colors, and I see biology in my brain kind of as different colors.
Do you have synesthesia?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I just have...
Isn't that what that
is?
A
lot of it. That is.
Yeah,
like
when you
see it. But it's just kind of like my brain sees purples and blues and greens for really biology. And now if you get me into physics, no, that is black and white and no fun. Sorry, physicists, physics is not fun. But you get into biology, you get that color, and it's interesting because it's the same kind of colorful brainscape, I guess you could say, that I get with music. So when I'm excelling mentally at one of them, it kind of coincides with the other one.
Sure.
Like I'm at my most, because there's some creativity involved, creative thinking involved in science.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you need the
plug and chug.
Yeah, you need like the knowledgeable background to be able to come up with the creativity aspect of biology. But it's still, you're kind of making stuff up to test it,
creating hypotheses.
Exactly.
Hypotheses. There we go.
I would say.
Got it.
Don't quote me on that.
Hey,
I'm not big on literature.
Dude,
I'm a scientist.
If the Beatles episode wasn't enough to know that I'm a fucking idiot, this one for sure is going to be like, wow, this guy's dumb. I had a lot of trouble with sciences in high school. It just never connected with me. I don't know. I never was big in math either. I liked English.
I loved math.
I liked
English.
High
school.
Yeah.
Not college math.
No,
college math is lame.
College math can fucking suck it, dude.
It really can.
It was
really
so
can.
bad. I hated it.
At least in high school, they tried to apply it to real life situations,
Yeah.
and they added pretty colored pictures
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You get to college and it's like, all right, here's a derivative, figure it out. What do I use this for?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why? No reason.
Yeah.
You don't ever have to know, just learn how to do it.
Yeah.
No, I did not thrive there.
There was a teacher that we had in high school who was a calculus teacher, and like we'd be all the time. We'd be like, "Yo, when are we going to use this?" He goes, "Honestly, never. Just pass the
Never.
class and shut up."
Never. Also, you're not going to have a calculator at your disposal all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, guess what? Yeah, I have one in my phone, in my pocket every fucking day.
24/7.
Yeah, ugh. High school was tough. I liked English though because I wasn't always. It's not a zeros and ones game.
Yeah.
You can be some kind of right.
Yeah.
Without being completely wrong.
So let me ask you, did you like geometry?
I fucking hated
okay,
geometry.
see, no, a lot of people who didn't like math but liked English a lot, they liked geometry because you got to like
let me say this.
write something out about why something is something. Like, why is this a triangle? Because
Yeah,
it is.
'cause
It just
it's a
is. I don't
fucking-
care. I
yeah.
don't want to like write out an entire list. Like, I don't want words in my math, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a hard time with geometry because our class was filled with like friends
Yeah.
and people that I knew, and it was just
Distracted.
It was great. And
Yeah.
then my initial teacher in geometry, she had a daughter who got pregnant very young, so she ended up having to leave the school, and she was a great teacher.
Did
But
you have a sub for a while?
we had a short term, but turned into
Term,
turned into the remainder of the year guy, and he was a fucking nightmare.
That's
It
the
was-
worst.
It was
That's
like,
the worst.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I used to fuck with him all the time because I used to be able to do an impression of a kid that was in our class. So anytime we would take a test and he would go in his office, like out of eyesight, I would do the impression of the kid. He'd come up and be like, "Hey, Steven, shut the fuck up. Take your test." I'm like, got it. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I always used to fuck
that's
with him.
great.
But I mean, he was like a kid. He was probably my age now, maybe a little bit. I'm probably older than he was, but yeah, I got a D overall in geometry my freshman year of high school. That started me
I don't
off
even remember.
real nice. It was not good. And then chemistry the next year, I mean, fucking forget it, dude. It was over.
Oh, see, I ended up loving chemistry. And
I
that's
liked
kind
it.
of when I
liked it. I just
realized
wasn't good at it.
it clicked with me for some reason. Physics, on the other hand, as I have said previously, was not my forte.
Yeah.
I will say that that had to do. So I actually, my physics teacher in high school was a lady who was an electrical engineer. No, a different kind of engineer, but she was an engineer in Haiti.
Wow.
And when the earthquakes in Haiti happened,
Oh,
she
boy.
actually nuclear engineer. She might have been a nuclear engineer, and she ended up when that happened, their plant or whatever she was doing there ended up
Yeah.
closing down because there was a lot of destruction and stuff. And so she came and taught high school in Lithia, Florida.
Really? Right out here?
She was, yeah. I went to Newsom High School.
Did you?
Yep.
Oh, no
yep.
shit.
My parents are like 15 minutes away from here.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Yeah, that's I don't know what it was with. I mean, school is just never my thing. I mean, we've gone over this on the podcast before, but I got to college and I was like, wow, you mean to tell me that we can go out to the bars?
I don't have to be here in class.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I was always really, really good at school. I was always very good. It came easy to me. But I did the same thing when I first got to college. And I realized, oh, shit. Mm-hmm. I don't have to be here.
Yep.
Because nobody's making me be here.
Right.
Which means I'm not going to be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which means I didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know anything. Yeah, I tried to fail out at the beginning of college.
You tried to?
I tried to. I tried really hard, and I did a almost really good job.
Well, I'll tell you
but
what.
then I figured it out.
I tried it and I fucking nailed it.
Got him.
I got an A in flunking out. I had two classes that I loved. It was rock and roll in American society, and then it was like some sort of
That sounds awesome.
like it was another class that was similar to that, and like I don't know, it was like popular music or something like that, and it was really good. I wrote papers on it that I fucking nailed and I felt real good about. And turning in papers in college, I never liked it because I just you think it's great and then you get it back and you're like, oh, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
It was always like that for me. Like school was always so tough, and it was just such a bummer. We had a lot of lot of really interesting things. Because I was actually in the engineering program in high school.
Is that what you were trying to major in college too?
No, I
Because that would have been at the engineering for.
I went into
so hard.
I went into
That 4-year degree is actually 6 for like everyone.
Yeah. I went into college. I think it was like undecided, and then I had to pick something. So I picked criminal justice, and then I picked multimedia, and then wow, that was
rumbling.
Yeah, we picked that one up on the mic for sure. And then I switched to I tried the music program, which I talked about on the episode with Justin, where they basically told me that if I couldn't sight read, that there's no way that I could do this. And I should have just said I could do it and just done it, because there were people on the fucking in the program that didn't know how to do shit.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
whatever.
And sight reading is, especially if you can like pick up relative pitches, once you kind of get that one tone down, you can kind of. It's not. It sounds terrifying, but it's actually not.
Yeah, it's not, and like
it's really not as bad.
I was
seems.
just so scared by anything new back then, because I was like a 19-year-old kid. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm a child.
Man,
I'm still a child.
I wish I didn't have that fear back then. Like, imagine the things we could have done if we were just braver.
I know. It's insane. Like, now I'm like, fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit? Like, but big shows, like the one that I did last night. By the way, shout out to Charles and 7C, the staff at 7C Music. You guys put on a great show. I did one last night with JT Brown and Forrest Hoffer, little writers in the round. That was unbelievable. So thank you guys for coming out and seeing that. That was really great. I had one of the best nights of my life over there. But, you know, I get really nervous when I play shows like that. But that, to me, like that show last night, the biggest show of my career, was...
That's awesome.
That was something unimaginable when I was sitting in that office and that lady was telling me, like, hey, you can't get in here unless you read music. I didn't even have that in my foresight.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, no, I'm just going to do this and like be a producer and like, you know, figure out equipment and stuff. I'm like, that was never, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then it took me forever. And then I finally was just like, you know what? This is the only thing that I love and that I'm good at. So why not turn it into money?
Yeah. Yeah. Might as well live off of it. Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I'm not quite brave enough to take the step completely into music, but I will say that I am putting the rest of my like plans to further my education, science-wise, on a hold to kind of see where this music thing goes.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
I had no idea. This is my first experience ever in this kind of band setting.
Yeah,
I was a classically trained pianist from the age of like 4 or 5 till probably 15 or 16.
Did you have to, I mean, how much time goes into that as a kid?
Well, as a kid, like as a child, my parents, pure and simple, made me, I probably had 2 or 3 songs that I was playing I had a weekly lesson, 2 or 3 songs that I was practicing every week. And my dad would make me sit at the piano and play each one at least 3 times a day.
Wow.
So that was just kind of a thing. I hated it at the time.
Yeah.
I hated it.
But you're thankful you have it now?
Oh man, am I I'm like incredibly thankful.
Yeah.
I wish he had pushed me a little bit more. Probably a good thing he didn't at the time, because you just, you resent your parents for those things. But still, I got that solid, music background, the understanding from such a young age. It's like learning a whole new language.
Was anybody in your family a musician before? Like, did they have that kind of idea of it, or?
So both of my parents, my sister started playing piano at about the same age that I did. She's 6 years older than me.
Okay.
My dad used to sing with like at his church, and so he would sing a lot, but he would do things like, with the church services, funerals, weddings, all of those kind of extra. And he has a wonderful voice. He doesn't use it enough anymore, but he has a wonderful voice.
Really?
And he just has kind of this, he doesn't have any music training at all, but he has just this innate ear and this understanding and this ability. And then my mom, she likes to sing a little bit as well, but she played piano. She used to play guitar some. So it's just, music has always kind of been a big part of our household, but not in any kind of professional aspect. Nothing like all encompassing. It was always just kind of
it was there,
important.
But,
There was always music playing in the background. My dad had a really nice stereo system set around our house, so we could have speakers going with everything.
I love it.
You know, like I got all of my early understanding of music from him.
Yes.
At one point, you know, he would take me out of school sometimes and take me to like a jazz concert and stuff like that.
That's fucking awesome, man. That's great.
Yeah, so it was people's first, you know, shows would be something like NSYNC or Britney Spears or something like that, right?
Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, exactly. My very first show was, I can't even remember, I think Dave Coase, the sax player for like a Christmas
Good
smooth
Lord.
jazz.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so I just...
So was that like when you started to listen to like the jazz stuff, is that when you kind of swung into the being interested in the flute? When did that come about?
So I kind of I always was interested in singing.
Okay.
Always interested in singing.
Did you do it ever like in chorus?
No.
No? Yeah, I didn't either.
So apparently I always, at a young age, I used to just sing my life. Mm-hmm. My life was a musical, apparently, from the age of like starting to speak onward for the longest time. Yeah. I don't recall this, but I still kind of do it to this day. So I guess I could see it.
Yeah.
But when I got to middle school, that's kind of when a lot of people really, if your parents don't push you to do music, that's when you get your first in-school opportunity to kind of like start.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really like the choral director. In middle school.
Oh, those guys are tough, man.
Yeah, and she just was...
I was talking about that on the last episode, man. Some of these guys, they chase you away at that age.
Yeah, she just wasn't particularly inviting.
We're 12.
And I was scared and confused, as all 12-year-olds are, right? And I, you know, loved singing, but I was afraid of it. Mm-hmm. So I kind of was like, well, I don't want to do this. The band director is cool.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Yeah.
I actually started on French horn.
Oh, really?
But my dad, a couple weeks in, he's like, you are a nerd.
Yeah.
You take your instrument home every day. One of the few people in 6th grade that did, mind you.
Yeah.
Took my instrument home every day. I went to a magnet school, so I was on the bus for probably a good 3.5 hours every day because I had to go through the transfer stations and stuff like that. Yeah. So I had this French horn. I went to, in middle school, I went to Booker T. Washington, and it actually ended up...
In Tampa?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it ended up like switching locations to Williams Middle School. Mm-hmm. It was like the same establishment, but the school wasn't big enough. The property wasn't big enough for middle school.
Okay.
So yeah, I decided to try band because band seems cool. Also, it's a lot less terrifying to me to have an instrument to play, whereas when you're singing, it's just here you are.
Yeah, it's just you.
Just you. Can't blame it on anything if it doesn't go well. At least all my third slide on my French horn messed up. Darn.
Right. That's a big thing too. I hate, like, I can always kind of rely on my guitar playing ability because I don't do anything outside of what I'm normally comfortable with.
Yeah.
I don't really go and like try to solo or shred or anything like that, and my hands lock up. Like, I know that I'm going to be able to play chords okay. Mm-hmm. I never know what my voice is going to sound like.
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah,
Until we start, I'm like, oh boy.
Although I will say the other day, me and Justin were doing a duet at the bistro, and usually my flute is like my comfort zone. I can go there. I can play low flute notes, no problem ever. It was one of the first really humid days we had in a while. And his guitar was a little bit out of tune for the same reason, you know, working on that. But my flute was just out. I don't know if my ear was off. I don't know what it was, but I just could not find in tune. So I ended up improvising with my voice and like adding the things that I would add with flute with my voice because I was like, this isn't working.
Yeah, that's
something isn't right here.
Yeah, the Florida heat, man, it is not
bitch.
Great. Yeah, anything that you play.
I can't imagine with having like multiple strings to keep in tune. Like at least with my flute, it's just one. It's just one thing.
It's a disaster. Normally, it's more tough. You know, if you're playing right outside in like the sweltering heat, but you know, I haven't had any bad experiences with it, but it wears on the wood and the bridge and the you know, your hands get real sweaty, and like some guys like playing in the heat though. I've talked to some guys that are like, I love playing
sweaty
in that.
hands is a problem.
I'm
like trying to play something quickly on my flute and I'm like, my finger is slipping off. What is this? Why are you so soggy?
So you're in band in middle school.
So I was in 6th grade. I was started on French horn. My dad's like, you are beating yourself up.
Yeah.
I'm a small human. I'm 5'4". You know, I'm kind of wee. Back in middle school, I was probably like 70 pounds, like 4 foot, like tiny.
Soaking
The
wet,
the smallest of all the small people.
Yeah.
I'm carrying this giant French horn, which is kind of a normal size for me now, but like at the time I'm carrying this thing with
huge.
me.
It's
so
half
my
your
dad's
body,
like, we have a flute already. It was really old, not great, warped a little bit, but we already own this flute. Switch to flute. You need to switch to flute. I'm like, well, it's not as cool.
Yeah.
But okay. Yeah. Sure, fine.
It's lighter.
So that 6th grade, switched to flute, managed to make this really warped, really old student flute sound pretty good for a 6th grader.
Very
and who
nice.
knew that would unlock a whole realm of getting a good flute and being able to own it.
Yeah.
And then actually in 7th grade, I started playing in jazz band. I started playing jazz trumpet.
Nice.
So I was, doing both instruments starting in middle school after.
That's really cool.
It's pretty awesome. I miss trumpet.
The jazz, I don't know, man. There's something about good jazz that really, I always attribute jazz to like something like figure skating, for example, in like the Olympics. Like I watch it and I appreciate just how effortless it is. I'm never going to try to learn it. Like I'm never going to try to be like, I'm going to do that. Like I just love watching how effortlessly these guys communicate between each other with, little...
Well, and that's why I love Guava Trade so much.
Yeah, you guys do that?
Get that communication
You do,
going.
you do.
And that's the thing that's so fascinating to me is because I was in jazz band from 6th grade until actually the only music I did into college was I played trumpet in a jazz band at Florida State University for a semester.
Really?
Yeah, it was awesome.
It
was
dope.
neat. But I never really got off the paper. You know what I mean? Like I was so well trained. Yeah, I was so well trained in classical flute, jazz trumpet, but still like reading scores. And, I did drum corps actually. And
cool.
Yeah. And so it's still, but all of that is like written out. It's very scripted. So I just didn't have any idea that I never understood how people improved. Like getting off the page and just like making stuff up seems so scary to me. I could always like make stuff up in my head and I always heard things and I've always been able to hear something and play it back. That's always been something I could do, but that's still like deviating from that. It's just, it takes a certain level of bravery and trust in yourself to be able to just go for it. And so that's something that was really interesting at the beginning of Guava Train. Anytime I did play flute, I would sing things. And then when I played flute, it was kind of scripted. It was like, okay, this part, play flute at this part. And then eventually we started to realize,
just pass it
I
around.
can do anything.
Yeah, because you, Matt, and Justin all solo.
Yeah.
And then with the harmonica too, you guys incorporate that. So it's 4 guys kind of passing it around.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Which takes practice, which is also really hard when we can't hear ourselves.
Yeah.
Like when our sound is a little bit off, trying to like hear it to pass it off.
I can't even imagine the sound nightmares that you guys have been through. With a 5-piece band.
There have been some struggles.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Like, do you ever go into rooms and like situations where like they have these big speakers and like a big monitor line and like a huge just tons of power to the stage, and you get up there, you're like, why can I not fucking hear anything?
Why is none of this pointed to me?
Yeah, like what is going on? I played at the I'm gonna have to bleep this out. I played at the I have to cover my mouth just in case. But I go up on stage and this dude is running a fucking spaceship of a board, right? It's just like, he's the sound engineer that they hired for the day. He's like, oh, these guys came in here last night. It's like a 9-piece band. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be easy. I was like, this is going to be easy. It's just me and the guitar. I don't have any pedals. I don't have a keyboard. I don't have anything like this. It's just me. There's 5 or 6 monitors on stage pointing all back at me, like QSC monitors, like pointing back. I don't hear fucking anything the whole time. I can't hear anything that I'm doing. I get off the stage and I talk to Keith, my friend that was going up after me, and I'm like, did you hear anything out there? He's like, yeah, it sounded good. I'm like, well, I have no fucking
I'm glad
clue.
you could hear it.
Yeah,
that's nice.
I'm like, why do we have all of this if you don't know what the fuck you're doing?
Can you turn it up?
Yeah.
Turn me up.
I can do this myself. It's not going to sound picture perfect, but I can guarantee I'm going to get to the back of the house and I'm going to be able to feed a monitor in crisp and clear.
And I'll know if I'm singing well.
Yeah, I'll know, and then I can go and change it myself instead of going like, hey, could you put a little reverb on the guitar? Like, what? And then it's just you just walk up and stand right in front with the iPad and like pretend to touch something and then just go away. I'm like, okay, man, you know what?
Lovely.
Cool. Yeah.
Helpful.
So I can't even imagine what it's like with a 5-piece band where you got a bass incorporated in it too.
It can be a struggle sometimes. But it's wonderful.
How is the flute sound through like when you guys hook up a big, board or whatever, when you're going through stuff like that? How is that? What are some of your like tricks and little shortcuts to kind of get a crisp sound out of something?
I was singing and playing flute into the same mic for the longest time. So that was kind of a struggle, especially if nothing else, you have to move it.
Yeah.
Like the angle that I need it for my flute. And then I'm switching between vocals and flute very quickly on some songs.
Yeah,
so it's kind of like, I find every once in a while, because for flute, I need the mic a little bit lower, that I'm kind of slouching when I'm singing, which, as you know, is not
good for the voice.
It's like, do I sound pinched off? Yes, because I am. Yeah, exactly. So I actually just got a pickup for my flute, which sounds pretty awesome. I was a little bit nervous if we could get the sound up there, so I have a separate mic for my flute and vocals now. That's going to help a lot. But to be 100% honest, Justin is a magician, and he turns knobs and makes my voice sound good.
That's great. It's great to have somebody like that. I hate running sound, because not only do I not really know what I'm doing, I can guess and get lucky from time to time. But
I have a feeling that that's kind of still what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, certain rooms are, can be, whatever.
Justin definitely has way more understanding than I do of any of this stuff, but there's some that we're just kind of like, we have what we have and we're going to make it sound the best that we can,
right. Right. It's a struggle. I mean, like sometimes you're in rooms with like a complete like concrete floor and like big ceiling above you, and you got a bunch of glass in there maybe, and like you can't get any reverb without an echo, like or like a feedback or anything like that. It's just a lot. There's a lot that goes into like each room, especially if you're playing a lot of rooms that don't do live music, and they shove you in like a corner and be like, this is good right here. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get past none of these tables that are talking at the top of their lungs. Nothing.
Like,
no
do you want
one's
me to
gonna
turn
hear
all the way up, and then they can't have a conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
For this setting,
no one's gonna fucking hear anything. Like they definitely are not going to like me. So anyway, but I digress.
And that's the nice thing about not being a solo act is that it's never just you up there. So even if it goes, kind of poorly, or you're uncomfortable, or people aren't receptive, at least you got a buddy up there with you.
That's correct. Yeah. So when you're in high school, or I'm sorry, college, when you're playing at FSU.
So I still couldn't improv yet. Yeah. At that point, like I literally did not know that I could do. So when I got back into the whole swing of the band thing, they had some songs that either I didn't play on originally when Matt and Justin were playing, or were completely new and they started playing when I was, out of the mix. So there was a couple times that it was like, okay, what key are we in?
Yeah.
And then I would just go. And it ended up being some of the best songs ever, because I just, would be that perfect level of tequila intake.
Yes.
To have my inhibitions just completely thrown out the window, and I could just go with it. And it ends up being some of the neatest, funnest stuff out of it all,
Yeah. And a lot of the times it's, I feel like improv, like listening to like a good improvisational player, it's got to be... I envy that so much, to be able to just do that, but I have to follow some sort of progression and things like that. Like I don't solo. I've never practiced enough. I need to get
to better at following the progressions, and that's something I don't know if you've ever noticed. I always have an iPad on my.
Oh yeah,
stand.
I do too.
Yeah. And part of that is because there's just random little ditties that I've learned along the way that I'm like, I've never heard this. So if we're covering a song, I've never heard this song in real life.
Yeah, but it fits.
I've heard it here.
Yeah.
This sounds really good.
Yeah.
The fact that I've never heard this song before means that is probably the reason I could come up with this counter melody.
Yeah.
And so let me just write that down so I know fits.
So you guys do a lot of different styles. Like Justin says, you do some funk, some jam band stuff, some Brazilian bossa nova. He says you guys do reggae stuff, and then old Beatles tunes and stuff like that. So what is your favorite kind of genre to jam to?
So tough. That's really tough. I feel like reggae, it was always fun because I feel it.
Yeah.
Like it's hard not to feel it.
Yeah, of course.
So that one's always fun. Yeah. But I find that doing any song that I'm not expecting to be playing and to have to do something to it, that ends up being my favorite at that time.
Yeah, that's interesting how that works.
Because it's the recognition. It's still so new to me that anytime I realize I can accomplish this, I can do this, I can perform this, I can own this, I feel like a magician.
Yeah. Feels like somebody lifts you off the ground.
Yeah.
Like you're
yeah.
watching yourself do that.
Really?
It's like, what is going on? Yeah.
How did I do that? How did I know that key change was coming?
I know.
How did I know we just modulated into something else? I don't know. I felt it. I just felt it in my bones and it happened.
Damn good guesser.
Yeah.
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 So
it's been pretty incredible.
when did you first start playing live, like in front of like a bar audience? Was it with Justin and Matt?
Yeah.
Really?
So October 2019. Before then, I'd been on stages several times. I did all county.
Oh, you did?
I was in all county for.
How was your all county
Flute.
experience? Because we've told the story in here, and it's
fun.
It's horrible for me.
Fun. I mean, it was. I think when did I do all county? It was probably back in middle school.
Mm-hmm. Do they do it in high school too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I auditioned for it a couple times, but the amount of time you have to put into those scales.
It's crazy.
It's
yeah.
I had it at like 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and you're not going to make it unless it's under 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm not going to
Guess
put the 17 hours in to make it under 2 minutes when it sounds just fine at 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Sounds good to me. That's scales.
It's nuts.
Playing 3 octaves of my C scale. You're welcome, world.
I did percussion and tried out for the all county band, and my teacher was like, she was like, you guys are going to be great at this, and sent like who she thought were the best players, and we were all flukes because we were all, not all of us, some of you guys were good. I was a fluke. I was a memorizer. So I would look at a sheet, like if there was a piece on the bells or the xylophone or something like that, I would memorize it and take it home. So then I could just the Nick Cannon drumline shit, where it was like, I just have it all memorized in my head. And I just would do that and then be like, okay, all right, now turn to piece, 64 in your book.
And sight read it.
Let's do that right now in front of everybody. I'm like, I'm good.
All right, well, I'm going to go home instead.
Yeah. I left my book. Like, I have one up here. Come grab it. I'm like,
no, see, it was the skills that got me. I was usually pretty good at sight reading. But that's another thing with flute versus piano. I started playing piano. How many notes do you have at a time on piano? How many notes at a time do you have on guitar?
Oh.
I get to play one at a time.
Yeah.
So now that I'm trying to shift into keyboard, I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, this
I
is nice.
I got to play the whole part of the chord.
Yeah.
Interesting. What are those parts again?
Yeah. Did you ever do jazz piano?
No, I didn't. And I've been working on that. I've been
really?
I've been working on it a little
Some
bit.
of those
at least
chords
like blues chords and getting like different.
Yeah. Do you ever see that thing?
Easy.
Do you ever see that video of the kid that like his dad like plays like some random thing and he's like, oh, that's a B flat 5 over C sharp or like some crazy shit like that?
It's fucking
wild.
That's mind boggling.
There's something, it's like that's some sort of like a savant.
Really, it really is though. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. I mean, that's a talent right there. Where he's like, what? I
don't know. I have like my baby savant story, which is nothing compared to that because I can't hear something and be like, oh, that's a B flat. Oh, that's a B flat major 7th with a diminished 9.
Yeah,
I don't know.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, no idea. I was able to at the age of like 9 or so. I was annoying my mother, as 9-year-olds are wont to do, and she's like, okay, kid. I want you to like be distracted away from me. Yeah. So, hey, go on the piano and figure out the Star Spangled Banner. She assumed she had a good like half an hour, 45 minutes to get done the stuff she needed to do. Literally like 4 minutes later, I come back. I'm like, okay, I'm done. Now what? And she kind of looks at me and she's like, wait. She comes with me, like listens to me play it and is like, oh, that's actually pretty cool.
Pretty great.
And so we just kind of sat there for a bit and she told me different songs to play. And it got to the point where it's like I would get off the bus in 9th, 10th grade from high school. And my dad would be like, I'd sit outside. He'd be weeding in the front garden or something, take my flute out. And he's like, all right, play, this, play that, play this, play that. And I just sit there and
play Chopin.
And learn things. Yeah. Well, more so like play Moon Dance or something like that. And I'd figure that one out.
Yeah.
Or he'd like play the theme song from Romeo and Juliet. And I'm like, you're old and I'm not. So what is that? And then he'd hum it and then I'd play it.
Yeah. So I ask everybody this or everybody that I remember because as local musicians and you get to talk to a lot of people who think they know everything and it's a really fun time and sometimes when you're young and dumb like me you believe everything that they say and then you end up going to World's End to make sure that you like follow this one random drunk guy's thing because he knows what he's talking about. So what is the worst advice you think you've gotten? Maybe not, doesn't have to be music. What's the worst advice you've gotten in your life where you just look at a dude after it comes out of his mouth and you're like, you are way dumber than I thought you were?
So I don't know if this one would be like as much of a dumb a dumb thing for someone to say. It's actually probably realistically a smart thing for someone to say. I've gotten a lot of advice to stick to the instruments I already play, which makes sense. Yeah, because you should perfect something that you're already good at.
Are you saying that like douchey though? Like you should stick to that.
I guess no, not really. It's just kind of like why would you pick up something new when you're already kind of Okay,
I thought it was in response to picking up something new. Like
no, and I will say it's straight up my dad.
Okay,
hi Dad, love you, love you so much. I was already good at piano. I was already good at flute. And I'm like, I want to learn how to play guitar. And he's like, you already play 2 instruments pretty well. Just like do it better. Yeah. I'm like, but I want to do that. And so I would say I regret not picking up guitar earlier. Yeah. Because now I'm still going to pick it up eventually.
Yeah, of course.
I've still dabbled on it.
Well, I mean, you're surrounded by 2 incredible players.
Well,
so
that's another reason. Why would I play guitar too excessively right now when, I'm surrounded by guitar geniuses? It seems nonsensical. I can shine on flute. I can shine on vocals. I'll be the only keys player, so at least I'll shine on that.
And you know what, Justin, if you're listening, you're a motherfucking liar about how good you are at guitar, okay? Like, you are he's so fucking good. He's like, oh, I can figure things out. Like, no, fuck that. Dude, you're good. Like, stop it. All right, we can stop that now.
There have been a couple of times where we're doing just our duet, and he starts doing some kind of acoustic, like I know, and I'm just like looking at him, and I'm looking out at the people. We're at a restaurant or something. They're not paying attention to us, but they all freeze and they're staring straight at him, and I'm making eye contact with him, like, this is my buddy.
Yeah, this is my dude. Yeah,
this is my friend. Ain't he the best?
We love you, Justin. Yeah, it's a guitar was always, to me, I always said in the beginning, like, oh, I'm not smart enough to play this, so I can't do that, because I still am like this, but I'm very, very like negative about what I think my brain can handle. Yeah.
Which you're wrong, because you're incredible. But
you. I don't think incredible.
Be that as it may.
Yeah. Not necessarily. It's not the worst advice, but just a piece of advice maybe that you wish you didn't listen so heavily to back early was not to just stick with your instruments.
Just to try something new. You know, like, always try something new. If you already have a solid understanding of music, there really isn't any reason you can't pick up any instrument you want if you know what it's supposed to sound like. There are very few instruments I can't pick up and play. As far as like, I can pick up any brass instrument and play it, except the tuba, because the mouthpiece is just too big for my face because it's giant. So that's not my fault.
It's like,
it's like, okay, cool. Here we go.
Hello. And that's interesting, because having that baseline understanding of notes and theory and scales and keys and everything like that, like, you can kind of translate that once you are in that sort of orchestral mindset. I mean,
but I will say I regret not getting out of that orchestral mindset earlier on, because it's constricting.
It is.
Like, it's really constricting, thinking that you have to play everything perfectly exactly right out the bat, and it's like, no. Trust your ear. If you have an ear, or you work to train your ear, like, you can, and you kind of have a basic understanding. So I took AP Music Theory in high school.
Really?
Which, thank goodness, I took that.
I don't know if they had that class for us. That would have been great.
I had never. I think it started literally the year I took it.
That's crazy.
So that was pretty incredible.
Teacher?
Excellent teacher. Shout out to Mr. Basham. You were one of the best band directors that have ever existed. I want to say he's vice principal somewhere right now.
Oh, cool.
So he's, excellent human, great person, great teacher.
That's great.
Beyond grateful for what I learned from him. But it was a great course, because it went into the super nitty gritty and the things that I learned music theory back in when I was doing piano. We had, a workbook, a children's workbook. So it was very basic. But it built off of that, but it just, we were writing our own chord progressions, writing our own music and stuff like that. So I don't know how to do that anymore.
That's amazing.
But I still have a basic understanding of it, the circle of fifths, major and minor relations, how to stack chords.
I have zero clue what you're talking about right now.
Justin and Matt sometimes go into these things and I'm like, can you write that down for me so I can visualize it? Because otherwise I don't know.
Well, I have to bring Keith into the studio. I feel very uncomfortable when he's not there, because the guy that's a producer is like a big time, like, music theory nut, like one of the greatest guitar players like locally that there is. Like he's nuts. Like just naturally, I mean, probably not like naturally. He's been playing for like 65
well
like,
trained,
years,
but also a natural inclination.
He's just so good, and he'll say things to me in terms of like, harmonies or guitar parts and stuff like that, and I have no fucking clue what he's talking about sometimes. So I like bringing Keith in there, like even something as simple as like, what key are we in? I've gotten better with that because I can kind of guess. Because sometimes it's just the first chord you play. Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. But sometimes you start out on like the fourth or the fifth.
Yeah,
already,
you're like,
I don't know.
Yeah. So I'll get it right sometimes, but I'll look at Keith and go like, what key are we in? And he'll go, it's C. I'm like, we're in C? Like something. Yeah. But it's always an experience, a unique experience to be around somebody with such a fine-tuned knowledge of theory.
And see, that's something that I find fascinating too, because when you're playing guitar, I play flute. I sing.
Yeah.
That's one note at a time. It's really easy to know what key you're in because you're like, what sharps and flats am I playing?
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Whereas when you're playing chords constantly, that like varies astronomically.
Like
add like a major seventh or a minor seventh stacked on top of that chord. It completely changes, but it's still technically the same key. Yeah, no, I'm still working on wrapping my mind
around all the different inversions and stuff.
Yeah. So that's why I'm a little bit nervous about integrating keys in, but I have...
Yeah.
I think I'm overthinking it.
Yeah.
Plus, you can play one note at a time on keyboard too.
Most of music is overthinking.
It really is.
Most of it
really is. Like, just let it go.
A lot of it is really not that difficult. It's not. And look, I'm saying this from a guy with, I do not have a college degree. I am not the senior biological scientist in the Department of Medical Engineering at the University of South Florida. But, music is a universal language between us. Like, we're very different people, very different upbringings and background in terms of what we started playing and what we're doing now. But we can still kind of talk about music in that sense. So if you're worried about starting and trying to learn how to play, like, oh, it's too late, it's not.
It's never too late.
It's very easy to start and get a baseline understanding of something. And once you find that you're good at it, or that you can kind of roll with a little bit of the dabble in the intermediate side of things, like that's when it's really like, oh, this is really fun.
Yeah, if you got the passion for it, you can really like do anything.
The beginning sucks. My fingers still hurt after 10 and a half, 11 years of playing. So don't
keyboard, your fingers don't hurt. Just saying.
That's the instant gratification. You can get the good song.
It's nice. You push it and it makes the sound, and it's a really good sound.
That's what Justin,
depending on the keyboard you have.
That's what Justin was talking about with the keyboard too. You get that instant. You don't have
instant
a lot
gratification.
You don't have that with the guitar.
I feel like it's the same way with a lot of other instruments.
It is.
Flute is one of those things that it's hard to get a really good sound initially,
Crisp.
but once you get past that hump, it's almost like a free for all. That like the world is your limit.
Yeah.
But with keyboard, it's kind of the opposite. Like it's really easy to get a sound initially, but then to build on that and actually get proficient and get good at it is like.
So, random question. Are you sick of the Ron Burgundy jazz flute joke?
I don't think I ever will be.
Okay, because to me, I would probably go crazy if I did play the flute, but god damn it, what a scene. It's still so good.
Well, it helped that I was like out of the loop of watching good movies at that time period.
That's very interesting that you mentioned that.
I go through phases depending on the people, because I don't really watch movies by myself ever.
Yeah.
So it's like you need to have someone. And so if I happen to be around people that kind of humor is too dumb.
Yeah.
First off, you got bad taste in humor.
Yeah.
Second off, you still got bad taste in humor.
Dumb, absurd, wild, out of left field humor is the best.
It's the best.
It's the best.
It's the best. And if you don't think it's funny, I don't know, like drink it Truly and then rewatch it.
Go watch Friends with a laugh track where you're like, hey, this is where I'm supposed to laugh. Like there you go.
I can tell you when to laugh during the movie.
You're like right here. Here's a joke coming. Yeah. That's a great thing, and I always, every time I see somebody play the flute, that's the first thing I think of. I don't know what it is, but that's the first thing.
You can't not.
Yeah,
I will say every time I think of flute now, I think of freaking Lizzo. Who knew she could play flute?
Bitch.
Also,
yeah,
I just got a DNA test. Turns out I'm 100% not the badass bitch because Lizzo beat me to it. I didn't even know. And she busts it out on like a show. I'm like, oh man.
And she hits the solo and then just says, "Bitch." Yeah.
Yup.
I was like, damn. Yeah.
I know.
That was so funny.
Something to strive for. Though.
That was great. I loved it. Man, what an instrument too. I mean, I
used to think flute was so lame. I'm not even kidding. That's why I started playing trumpet.
I can tell you.
Because I'm like, there's no jazz flute. Of course there is. But like when you're in 7th grade jazz band, like ain't no jazz flute. And I'm like, it's so stupid. It's so lame. It's so soft. It's so quiet. It just is, you can't really do a lot with it.
Right.
Little did I know, you can do anything with it.
I can tell you right now that it's way fucking easier than packing up a 7-piece, 7-cymbal drum set and lugging it from house to house.
Yes, I know. Setup.
That was the worst.
Setup, that's one thing for Guava Train.
You're
Setup,
like, click,
I'm
click,
like,
bang.
Yep. I'm like, Justin,
good.
when do you need me to get there? It's like, oh, we need to be there 45 minutes early, but like just show up 10 minutes early and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And especially I got, my face all did. I got a dress on. I can't really help set up too excessively. I try to help unpack everything. I'm a primo cord wrapper. I've perfected it. And there's a lot of cords to wrap. So, it takes up time.
That's great.
Being useful.
The studio turn. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Okay. So to close it out, I want you to give me since this is the scratch track, as most of you know, we're not doing the whole life scratch track anymore. Although those were very fun, and I appreciate you guys giving us some very good stuff. I want you to tell me just what's your scratch track of the week or the month, or maybe something recent that happened to you that maybe you shouldn't have done, or that you want to do again because it was a blast, or something like that. It doesn't always have to be negative.
I guess a positive scratch track would be that I would love to do our Third Friday show again.
Oh my God.
Because it was just delightful. I felt like a rock star.
Yeah.
We've had a couple shows that you really felt that power, you felt that momentum. And that's another thing that, I just don't have the experience like some of my bandmates do, where they've been in other bands before. They've had these experiences. They've done big shows. They've done big things. Yeah. And this was just one of the first times that I really... Yeah. There's a lot of people, they were stopping just to see us. There was bright lights. We were on a trailer, which was pretty exciting.
That's super cool. Yeah.
But it's just, I would do that again. Just an experience like that,
That's
something
great.
Big, something crazy, something fun.
Yeah. And Matt has new music coming out too, right? Or it will be out by the time this is out. So check out Quiet.
Yep.
The band Quiet. They have, what is it called? What's the name of the album that they're putting out?
Oh, I don't remember.
Is it And So It Was or something?
That sounds right.
Is that right? Dude, if I just pulled that out of my ass, that's pretty fucking good.
I'm impressed.
Let me look. Yeah, but Matt is an incredible guitar player, and
beyond incredible.
He's a guitar
you guys
will definitely enjoy his stuff. He's a real cool dude, and we're gonna have him on. We're gonna have him on here for sure. So let me just double check that. I want to make sure I'm getting this right. We'll edit this out if it takes too long for. And so it was. Ha!
Hell yeah!
Dude, I'm 3.
That is what's up.
I'm 3 for 3.
That's
what
what's
the
up.
hell is going on tonight? Okay.
Feeling good.
So do you have
a good time?
Yeah.
Having a good time.
There we go. All right.
My regret of the week though, another scratch track is not covering Having a Good Time yet. Is that the name of the song, right? No. Don't Stop Me Now.
Don't Stop Me Now. Yeah, there we go.
Okay,
yeah.
That is my regret.
Sorry, Keith. He's watching us going like, cringing. No, it's
okay, so we're not going to do that part and starting now.
Yeah, right.
One of my biggest regrets of the last week or month would be not covering the song Don't Stop Me Now.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's
because it's an awesome song.
Do you have a favorite song that like I
that might be my current favorite.
Really?
That might be my current favorite, just because I feel it in my soul. Plus, I've been practicing keyboard, and that one, the intro especially, is very keyboard oriented. Did you like the movie? I really did enjoy the movie. Yeah, me and Corey, my boyfriend Corey, we watched it together, and it was delightful. It was good, and it just really. Remy's a killer, man. Kind of, yeah. It just kind of opens your eyes to like the struggles that real musicians have, and like the whole, I'm kind of living that a little bit now. I never thought I would be, and it's like I'm. Do you have an all-time favorite like music movie, or whether it be real or not, or a TV show or something? Across the Universe really spoke to me. You know what? I saw that years ago, and it was before I really even gave the Beatles a shot.
because I'm a baby.
The Beatles.
Fair. And I really want to go back and do that again. Because
Yeah.
I loved Yesterday, incorporating all the Beatles music in that too. I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, now I know this
No,
stuff.
Across the Universe was wonderful. And actually, the Beatles, they might not be my favorite band currently because it kind of changes constantly.
Yeah, of course.
But overall, the Beatles would still be one of my favorite bands.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it was
absolutely.
one that I listened to with my parents a whole lot growing
Yes,
up. So
of
that
course.
was, playing constantly. And I remembered those ones. So when Across the Universe came out and you can hear some of the, different renditions of these songs that were already tried and true, you hear like the poppy Beatles version of it. And then some of these like, sorry, Beatles.
Yeah.
Are like better almost. It's like it's getting
tough.
that like extra expression. And I mean, it's a later day and age, so there's more capability for music and everything anyway.
I know.
Different crowd, different recording capabilities.
Yeah. It's a lot of I mean, everything's going to change no matter. And I think there's a lot of beauty in that too, is, in taking the song and incorporating it, incorporating your own kind of heart and soul to that. Goes back to the improvisational stuff.
Yeah.
Like if they just played it like the sheet music and sounded exactly like the record, maybe the movie would have been like, all right, we get it. I've heard these songs before,
We have the Yellow Submarine cartoon, so we already got that.
we know this before.
No, and that's so super exciting to like, and that's one of the things. We do have a couple of our covers that we do with Guava Train that are kind of a little more to the book. We only change a little bit here and there. The solo parts might be a little bit different, this, that, and the other thing. But it's like those songs that we really change, like the way we do Toxic. It's like completely different from the mainstream version. It's a little similar to somebody else's cover of it. We've borrowed from other covers and listened to those, but...
One of my favorite musicians of all time, Matthew Mayfield, does a fucking incredible cover of Toxic.
Ooh, I'll have to check that out.
Really cool.
I might have to borrow some techniques from
I think that's such a cool song.
It really is.
And it translates so well to like a rock and roll kind of thing.
It really
like a
does.
full
It's
band.
so poppy, but it's like if you listen even to the main song, the background is super rock and roll.
Oh yeah.
You have like different electronic things going on top of it, and obviously her voice on top of it.
Of course. I
actually remember there are not very many songs in the realm of the world that I remember when that song dropped. I was actually in Italy. I was in Rome, Italy on vacation, and the very first time I ever saw that music video, it was on a TV in an Italian restaurant where, nobody was speaking English. It just happened to be on in the corner.
Like, hey, I know that.
And I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
And so that just like stuck with me. I still have the exact visual of seeing the TV in the corner, eating gnocchi, and like sitting in this tiny little restaurant with like, brick building, everything.
That's pretty impressive.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, I have so many of those memories too.
Yeah,
just how do you remember this shit? I'm like,
it's just
it
like
just sticks.
A photo. Yeah, I just have like this short clip.
Yeah,
in my head.
I have little replays. Where you
it's pretty much all I have.
Take little mental photographs and be like, I'm gonna remember this forever. Yeah. And some of the bad stuff too. I'm like, I'm gonna remember this forever. I'm gonna remember you, motherfucker, for a long time.
Can we erase this one though? Yeah. Oh. Delete?
Yeah.
No?
I wish it was that easy, man. I really wish it was that easy. Okay, so we're gonna get you out of here. We're gonna do this again soon, though. I'm gonna try to get the other guys from the Guava Train, and we're gonna get the whole train on here.
That sounds awesome.
The whole train.
Some great people, great personalities, a lot more. I've got a solid musical background throughout childhood, but as far as like in the band scene and the music scene, this kind of music scene, they've got
and they
so much.
They do a phenomenal job, and you guys, incredible. I mean, you had almost immediate chemistry with them, which was really cool. Like we got a chance to see you guys before wonderful. Everything really kind of took off with the full band, so I was always thankful for that. And do you have anything coming up in June, or I'm sorry, July?
I do.
End of
Can I
July.
Grab my phone?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I need to.
We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna promote some dates, and we're back again. Okay, so sorry about that. Okay, so make sure you guys follow us and everything like that. But before we go, plug your dates and tell them where they can find you. Let's get you guys out to a show soon. They put on a hell of a show. You guys don't want to miss this. So here's some dates. So
we have some fun stuff coming up. So on July 10th, this Saturday, me and Justin will be playing at the Bistro in Tarpon Springs. Really wonderful restaurant. Cool. Really wonderful people. I would highly advise, even if not coming out on Saturday, definitely go give them a visit. Really good food.
Awesome.
And then for Third Friday on July 16th, we'll be playing at the Nona. So that's going to be a wonderful, wonderful time.
That's a Third Friday, you said?
Yep, Third Friday.
Cool,
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Man, I can't believe I'm missing that.
And then, sad, but
I know. I'll be out of town. Sorry, that's why we're stacking some episodes.
Gotta stack them up.
Yeah.
And then on the following Saturday, on the 24th, Guava Train, we also have another duo that we're going to be doing at Crooked Thumb.
Nice.
So that's either going to be, it'll either be Justin or Matt or Justin and me.
Cool.
We're not quite sure about that one yet.
Okay, well, that's awesome.
But that one's going to be awesome as well. So definitely come check us out. And again, if you have not followed us yet, we are Guava Train Official on Facebook or Instagram. Unfortunately, those likes are really, really important. So I would truly appreciate it.
Yeah, and they're, like I said before when Justin was on here, they're a great follow. They have a lot of really good video footage on there. It's not the grainy bullshit that I put on there. It's actually legit.
We've been trying.
It's
trying
cool.
on content.
It's good stuff, and you guys put together a lot of nice, clean and easy to read event pages and things like that. So it's good. So make sure to get out to a show. I am so happy that we had you here. Thank you so much for
Thank you so much for having
stopping
me.
by. Sorry about the rain. You know, we made it.
It's Florida.
It
you know,
is.
it's to be expected.
It is.
I didn't die on the way. Hopefully I don't die on the way home.
All
It'll be
these
fine.
dummies that are surprised by the rain in summer.
I
Can you
know.
believe this?
People
I can.
still put their emergency blinkers on.
Dude.
It's like, that's illegal.
What is that?
That's illegal.
Stop doing that.
I mean,
if
I
you're doing
get
that.
it. When I was like 18 and first learning how to drive and driving
Yeah.
in pouring rain, I also did the same thing because
Yeah.
I felt like I was an emergency.
My favorite thing is when people pull over in a storm. I'm like, dude, how do you know that it's not stopping and going to follow you?
Yeah, it's gonna.
How do you not know it's not gonna head in the same direction?
Just drive. You're
Just
more
drive.
likely to drive
Yeah.
through it eventually.
Yeah. Than stopping
You'll
and
get
waiting,
there.
waiting for it to go, and then
Yeah, it's
then
gonna
you're
just
following
catch
the
up
storm
with you.
again. Yeah,
No,
it's
this
just-
one was a wide band too. It like
yeah.
went and went and went. I'm like, this has got to end eventually. Nope.
It's brutal. Well, we'll drive safe, and please, text us when you get home.
Absolutely,
okay?
I
Yeah,
will.
because I was worried. I'm like, oh my god.
I know. I almost like wanted to text you like, I'm gonna be late, and I'm like, I can't look at my phone except for the map.
That's why I was like,
And
when
I actually
sent that
didn't even look at
message-
the map because I was like, I didn't read it until I was like
Yeah.
at the light, right, turning on the.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Good idea.
But I looked at my maps at one point. I was at a stoplight on like the causeway, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to my parents' house.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I don't have to pay attention to anything.
Got it. Yeah.
Just going on
Yeah.
auto.
Autopilot.
Going. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, this was great. Thank you so much for being here. This was awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, we're gonna have you back again for sure. And hope you guys had a great 4th of July. Remember to please follow us, like us, subscribe, tell your friends about us. Scratch Track Podcast on Instagram, Scratch Track Podcast on Facebook. If you want to send us an email, you don't have to, but you can if you'd like. You can send it at scratchtrackpod@gmail.com. You can also DM us on any of the social media sites. And then you can follow me individually at Josh Plummer Music, joshplummermusic.com for the schedule. That'll be up and running by the time this is out. Right now we're on a little bit of a delay, so hopefully I got a little time to get the dates up there. And come out to a show, follow us, tell your friends about us, and we appreciate you guys for listening. So thank you so much. We'll see you next week. This is Jody Synowiec. Please go check out the Guava Train experience. Thanks. You guys are going to be very pleased when you do. So thank you again. We'll see you guys soon. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Thursday. Goodbye.